Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. It's Gianni DePoce, your host. It's great to be back with you on this Friday afternoon. We had another turbulent week in many markets. The Fed raised interest rates 50 basis points in alignment with our expectations, but that came the day after a CPI report that came in below estimates. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place right now as it pertains to the Fed's trajectory, because they want to see inflation coming down, but they also want to see more weakness in the labor markets, which is not really unfolding accordingly as such. So they're slowing the pace of rate hikes, and stocks were pretty turbulent. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. We'll start off by looking at the Dow Jones. The only major aspect that we had this week was Sun square Neptune on the 14th. So we did have the high of the week and a reversal from a high unfold the day before. And, that's typical Neptunian behavior. You had the inflation CPI number that came in below estimates, and the Fed saying, they basically spoke in circles this past week saying, inflation's coming down and is good, but we're not going to rule out more rate hikes in the future. So kind of, like I said, stuck between a rock and a hard place, because we're technically not in a recession yet, but stocks are closing out this week as if they were, because we sold out. We sold down 3 days in a row, erasing the gains from the previous month, basically. So stocks on the defensive as we go into the last 2 weeks of the year. Let's go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ. We maintain that there's going to be a nice opportunity emerging in this tech-heavy index as Saturn gets toward the end of Aquarius. We had a question in a previous video. Saturn will be in Aquarius until March 7th. So don't be surprised if tech continues to underperform until around that time. And, we've been pointing out how the period between March and May 2023 is probably the most intense period of geocosmic activity in 2023. You have three outer planets changing signs: Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. In that period, you also have a square aspect between Jupiter and Pluto during that time. So it's going to be a pretty intense time. And if stocks do break to new lows, we could see a decline into that time period. That remains to be seen. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield, still consolidating near the lows. The corrective decline that we've seen in interest rates has been arguably a good thing for markets. But this past week, obviously, we've been rattled by the Fed's intention to stay on their rate hike trajectory. But next week, we do have some more inflation data coming in, along with a Sun-Jupiter square on the 21st, the same day that Capricorn season begins, and the winter solstice. And then on the 22nd of December, we will have a trine between Venus and Uranus. So whenever Uranus is involved, you're going to see breaks of support or resistance in all likelihood. Venus is important because Venus rules a lot of markets: stocks, currencies, grains, and then Jupiter too. So Jupiter's being aspected as well. So exaggerations of the sort. So don't be surprised if the volatility continues into next week. But as Ray pointed out, we are now in that period for the semi-square between Jupiter and Uranus. So have to be on guard for another reversal in the next couple weeks. And ultimately, if a low forms, we'll have to see where that forms to, formulate a technical evaluation. So let's take a look at the U.S. dollar. Had a little bit of a rally on Thursday, formed a low after the Fed raised rates, now kind of just consolidating its gains here on Friday. But the long-term trend remains up. The short-term trend is down, and perhaps with the Venus trine Uranus next week, we get another big move in currency markets. Want to take a look at crude oil. I'm going to highlight USO here because this is an ETF that we cover in the MMA ETF report that's going to be published next week. So definitely would encourage you to check that out. You can find the report at www.mmacycles.com. But USO, nice proxy for crude oil, formed a high the same day that the Sun squared Neptune. And that's no surprise for students of financial astrology, because the co-rulers of Jupiter, the co-rulers of crude oil are Jupiter and Neptune. And we saw a high form right on that Sun square Neptune signature. So with Jupiter set to square the Sun next week, could we see another reversal? Well, I guess we'll find out in a few days' time. So crude oil still in defensive here. We saw some pretty good moves in metals this week. I'm going to showcase GDX here, another ETF that we analyze in the MMA ETF report. Rally to a new high on the 13th, reverse, but catching a little bit of a bid here on Friday. And we're going to have to see how it makes it through that Sun-Jupiter aspect next week, because as a rule, metals don't like Jupiter. So if we can hold these gains through that Jupiter signature, I think that's a pretty good sign as well. I want to take a look at Bitcoin real quick. Another lower high form. We've been pretty bearish on crypto. And we talk about this in our MMA crypto reports that I would encourage you to check out as well. We do highlight a Bitcoin ETF, BITO, in the MMA ETF report. So, that this is another way to have exposure through Bitcoin if you don't want to keep your coins on exchanges. Rumors swirling that, now Binance is under pressure as well. So this is something we talked about at length, when we had that eclipse with in Scorpio season. And Taurus and the Uranus opposition at the time, there, Scorpio is, backdoor dealings and engagements under the surface, and they're kind of coming to light. But we also warned our students of MMTA2 in January, February of this year to get your coins off exchanges. And that turned out to be a wise outlook in the space, because there's little to no regulation in crypto, and that comes with its own downside as well. So that pretty much takes care of what I wanted to look at this week. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see how we close out the year. We are looking for hopefully a Santa Claus rally, which is nothing to do with geocosmics. That's just the period between the trading day after the Christmas holiday and the first 2 trading days of the new calendar year. So that's an important time period, a nice bellwether for stocks. But as we go into Capricorn season in just another week here, just remember that the light is going to start increasing in the Northern Hemisphere. So there is a symbolic element to that as it pertains to geocosmics. So thank you so much for watching. Check us out at www.mmacycles.com and stay tuned for some very key special announcements regarding MMTA3. We are looking at releasing the details over that course in the next couple weeks here. So stay tuned, www.mmacycles.com. Thank you for watching.